String music. In the home of country music, it's known as the sweet notes echoing from the strings of a weathered guitar or a rustic fiddle passed down for generations. But when the SEC comes to town, it takes on a whole new meaning.
Who gets down? We get down!
It's the familiar sound you hear from the back row of the bleachers. Swish!
Rogers keeps running to the left, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Commodores!
He's showing a little blood from that hit, looks like. Wow.
8 was great. 9 is divine. And I believe they got James Franklin on the sidelines with the Gatorade bucket. The last time a Vanderbilt football team won 9 games, 1915.
I'd like to thank the 50,000 black and gold fans that came out. I'd also like to say, going to bowl games is pretty cool, but winning them is even better.
Okay, we are sitting here with Scott Ramsey, the president of the Nashville Sports Council and Music City Bowl. We were just going to ask you a few questions. First off, what is the mission and purpose of the Nashville Sports Council?
The Nashville Sports Council is designed to go out and recruit events to the city that bring both economic impact and hopefully improved quality of life for the local citizens.
What is the, could you just describe the organizational structure of the council?
As a nonprofit, we have a nonprofit board of directors that oversees all of our operations, and then we have a paid staff. We're unique in the sense that we really have 2 organizations, the National Sports Council, Inc., which is a 501c6 nonprofit corporation with its own board of directors, its own fiscal year, and its own budget. And we have the Music City Bowl, Inc., which is a 501c3 corporation with its own board and its own budget and its own fiscal year. The 2 boards have an agreement to share our personnel and administration and overhead, so we're really kind of one staff that works for both organizations. That's really been a positive for us, and that we've been very consistent in both our external relationships and then both internally with our corporate partners, venues, volunteers, and those kind of things.
How is the council funded?
We're funded through, the National Sports Council is funded through memberships and really any kind of financial opportunities that we have through the events we recruit.
And if you could just describe the types of events that you host.
Well, we've hosted over 100 events in the last 20 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary last year as an organization. We've had everything from water polo to swimming to cycling to gymnastics to football to basketball, obviously to marathons with the Country Music Marathon coming up. So we've had a wide variety of events we've hosted.
What services does the Nashville Sports Council provide?
Well, we're really not a service organization. However, we do provide opportunities for the local community to get involved through either volunteerism at our events, which is hugely important to us, and really the face of those events, because those are the people interacting with all the visitors and guests and players and administration that comes to town. And then secondly, through membership, which is open to anybody. Anybody can be a member and be a part of the organization that helps support our mission.
Yeah, if you could just expand upon the what ways does the community have in terms of getting involved?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, with the events we recruit, they come in a wide variety of forms and fashion. But I think for them, if you boil it down, there's really three opportunities. One is to be a member. Anybody can be a member, whether it's a corporate entity or an individual. Secondly is to volunteer. We always need volunteers to help us stage the events. And then third, if you look more on the Music City Bowl and some of the other events that we have, there's a ticket buying opportunity, which is typically something that the community can come out and enjoy the events with.
In what is the Nashville Sports Council doing specifically to help the youth in the Nashville area?
Well, again, our mission is to recruit events here. So part of those events, typically we will have some sort of youth support program or initiative as part of that. In the Music City Bowl, for instance, we have over 22 regional leagues that are part of a youth football program that we support by bringing those age group winners to the game at no cost. We provide them with financial support and equipment such as mouth guards. For the Women's Final Four that we just completed, we had a huge legacy program that involved a number of youth initiatives, from free attendance at Town to the Broadway Bounce downtown to educational initiatives as well.
And if you could expand upon just the council's role in hosting the NCAA Women's Final Four.
Yeah, typically the best way to describe what the National Sports Council does, which we have similar entities in probably most every city, in the major city in the country now that we compete against, but we do a couple things. One, we prepare and package those bids. The recently completed Women's Final Four, we packaged and presented and went through that bid process with the NCAA in 2008, 6 years before we hosted. In that 6 years then, we kind of quarterbacked the community's efforts in doing all the things that we put in our bid, from providing facilities to volunteers to hospitality to transportation to hotels, and we kind of shepherd everybody supporting that event, and then also make sure that we raise the necessary financial resources to put those events on.
What steps, if any, is the council taking in order to strengthen and expand female youth participation?
Well, again, I think each event has its own support system. And specifically to women, we've had a lot of events that have been very targeted toward women. We had the SEC and the USA National Gymnastics Championships on the female side specifically, and obviously the Women's Final Four. We've had SEC women's basketball tournaments, and each one of those have specific youth outreach programs that also kind of tie into the event itself.
See, downtown Nashville is buzzing as usual right now, but that's going to change this weekend. There's going to be a lot more activities for the Women's Final Four. One of those events includes Super Saturday with the Broadway Bounce, and it's exactly how it sounds. You can come down here for free and actually bounce a basketball down Broadway. Now, if you're like me and basketball clearly isn't your forte, but you still want to celebrate the Women's Final Four, don't worry, there's still plenty of other activities to participate in. The Nashville Women's Final Four Committee says all of the city is going to take part in the Women's Final Four. The Adventure Center will host a legacy program with basketball activities combined with technology. There will also be events for you and your family at the Belcourt Theater and Library. UConn, Notre Dame, Stanford, and Maryland are the teams competing this year for the final win in Nashville. The city also put in a bid for the next Women's Final Four cycle and is a finalist, hoping this year's events will be enough.
We think we're going to show them that Nashville is the perfect place to host the Women's Final Four because of the rich tradition of women's basketball, the downtown complex, and the organizations that we have got together to put on this event.
Speaking of women's basketball history, Gary Alexander with the Nashville Sports Council and local organizing committee says a permanent Pat Summitt exhibit will be opening tomorrow. The Lady Vols head coach will be honored at the Nashville Sports Hall of Fame just in time to kick off the women's Final Four festivities. Now that exhibit will actually be open for free here at Bridgestone Arena through April 8th. For more information on all the activities and the women's Final Four here in Nashville, visit fox17.com. Michaela Lewis, Fox 7.
If you could just discuss how much does ethnicity and social class come into play when operating a nonprofit such as the National Sports Council?
Well, I think one of the great things about sports is, it's everybody. I think it touches everybody to some degree, whether you're a fan, a participant, a volunteer, or just part of a community that sees what it brings to town from a media attention standpoint to our community. And I think one of the things since we've built the Bridgestone Arena and LP Fields, a chance not only through the Predators and Titans but through a variety of events that we've recruited in, that people can get involved. I think it's been a great unifying element to our city that really crosses all social boundaries and lines. Whether you participate and run in the Country Music Marathon or you sit in the stands and cheer on the Titans, I think it breaks down all those barriers and puts everybody in kind of one class, and that's kind of rooting for Nashville or the Nashville teams.
And if we could just talk about, I guess, what does the council ever experience issues stemming from politics in the area?
Well, obviously we have to work closely with the mayor's office and in some cases the state, but more importantly, I think from the mayor's office and being partners, the city owns the two major sports facilities, and to go out and recruit those events and work closely with them on all the necessary elements it takes to put on the events. In a couple of weeks, the Country Music Marathon will be closing 26 miles of street, and that takes a partnership with the city. And it's a very positive one, because I think the sports events bring not only positive spending and pure economic impact, but also a great positive promotion for not only healthy lifestyles, but a great media platform for the city to showcase itself.
And speaking of the economic impact, what challenges does the nonprofit organization like the NSC face when the economy is not going well?
Well, as a nonprofit, and to recruit these events, we are typically making promises to the rights holders to bring those events here and provide certain elements here. In return, as a city, we hope obviously to gain a lot of people coming to town as tourists and spending money. The biggest challenge economically is fundraising. Typically, that's a big challenge, and whether we're out looking for the corporate citizens to help us underwrite and sponsor events, or whether we're looking for individual citizens to buy tickets or to support the organization through memberships. Fundraising in down economic times on nonprofits are typically more challenging.
If you could just give kind of advice to anyone who's looking to be a part of the Nashville Sports Council to get involved, what would you
Well, again, there's two ways open to everybody. One's be a member. We've got all kinds of membership levels to get involved. We've got a great networking program. We've got a great youth or young professionals program from the Music City Bowl standpoint, and some of our major events. It's volunteerism. Anybody can volunteer and be a part of it, and really help us represent Nashville at those events. So I would say those two, join as a member or volunteer with your time, are the two elements that are probably the easiest and most readily available to everybody.